I don't want to live in a merit-based society, at least not in the way it's typically imagined. Let me be clear, the idea of merit sounds great. Do well, get rewarded. Do better, get rewarded more. It appeals to our sense of fairness, of balance. If you work harder or smarter or faster, then yes, you should enjoy some benefit from that, but only to a certain extent. The idea becomes dangerous when we forget the limits of its fairness. The belief in merit is often held by the same people who believe supply and demand should determine the value of a good or service. We value something more if it's rare or in high demand. But should we? Something feels off there. The value of something shouldn't rest solely on how few people can do it or how many people want it. Let's take a closer look at what merit is supposed to measure. It suggests that if you succeed, you earned it, you deserved it. But is that true? There are people for whom success comes naturally. They're smart, charismatic, and just driven enough to get things done. They aren't necessarily the hardest workers, and they don't need to be. Life isn't testing them, it's cooperating with them. Things come naturally to them. They are naturally talented people. Then there are the grinders, the determined, the ones who stay up late, practice endlessly, push themselves to their limits. If they are also talented, these are the great stories of success. Think of Steve Jobs, Jojo Meyer, Alex Hormozi, the icons. But what if the grinders aren't talented enough? What if they give everything and it's just not enough? Depending on the kind of achievement we are talking about, the outcomes can be very different. Think of a medical student who wanted to open his own practice and only work for the richest and most famous, but never achieved that. And now he's only a doctor in a hospital. A non-successful doctor is still a doctor. But think of a musician whose dream was to perform on big stages with artists he respects, but he never made it. That story can turn a once hopeful young musician into a 50-year-old depressed and unsuccessful drunk who gave up on his dreams years ago and finds the answer to life's unfairness at the bottom of beer bottles. Not because he didn't try, but because effort alone isn't enough. A non-successful musician isn't seen as a musician at all. And then there are those for whom nothing seems to come easy. Not intelligent, not attractive, not socially gifted, not driven. And crucially, they know it. They are aware of their lack of potential, and that knowledge hurts. They are not blind to the unfairness of it all. Of course, there are many more kinds of people, but let's just stop here. Here's the thing we all share. No one chose who they are. You didn't choose your IQ, you didn't choose your interests. You didn't choose to be good at math or music. You didn't choose to be lazy or motivated. You didn't choose your height or eye color. These aren't moral failings or virtues. They are accidents of birth, of biology, of circumstance. So, when someone succeeds, can they really take credit? And when someone fails, should they really take the blame? There's a fascinating study from UC Irvine, often referred to as the Monopoly study. Researchers rigged a game of Monopoly by giving one player more money, more dice rolls, and better rules. Unsurprisingly, that player won. But what's interesting is how the winners explained their win. They credited their strategy, their choices, not the massive advantage they were given at the start, and completely ignored the coin flip that decided who would get the upper hand. Interestingly enough, the researchers also put out snacks on the table for the players. Over the course of the game, the winners ate much more from the shared snacks than the losers did. The winners became ruder towards the losers as well. We often fail to see how much of our success is random and simply luck. Not just monetary success, but temperament, intelligence, resilience, looks, and health. I don't want to live in a world where everyone is the same. That's not the point. I believe in excellence. I believe in rewarding people who contribute meaningfully. But we need to keep two things in mind. First, success is not solely earned. And second, those at the bottom didn't choose their position any more than those at the top did. Let's design a society where no matter where you were born, you'd be happy with your situation and feel society treated you with fairness and dignity. We got a glimpse of what that might look like during the pandemic. Suddenly, our ideas of value and merit were flipped upside down. Supermarket clerks, delivery drivers, public transport and maintenance workers, jobs that are usually underpaid and overlooked, they became essential. They had to put their lives at risk so society could function. Meanwhile, highly paid, well-educated executives worked safely from home. That experience should force us to reevaluate how we think about merit and worth. The pandemic made it painfully clear how deeply our society relies on workers we usually ignore. Maybe it's time we recognize their contribution, not just in words, but also in pay and respect. I recently had a conversation with a friend who complained about a public holiday. In his view, people who work in the public sector, people like me, take advantage of the system. He complained that while the private sector only gets a half day off, the public sector probably just takes the full day. He went on to lament the public sector's generous vacations, 5 or even 6 weeks, compared to the legal minimum of 4. To him, we were lazy, comfortable, and abusing the Swiss system, while people in the private sector were stuck with 4 weeks of paid vacation. The irony, I was driving him around all day that day, helping him move house, doing heavy lifting while he made these comments. I didn't argue as I was maneuvering a big car with all of his stuff in it, but I thought, you don't see the whole picture, do you? He was insulting me and my co-workers, while I took a whole day off to help him move. In Switzerland, we have a beautiful culture of clubs. Football clubs, hiking clubs, brass bands, first aid volunteers, orchestras, cultural groups, around 100,000 of them. Most run entirely on volunteer work. These clubs organize events, clean the Alps, play concerts, and keep people healthy through sports. They provide structure, meaning, and community. And many of the most committed people in these clubs, they work in the public sector. Some clubs don't require much effort or time. Imagine a seniors club that meets once a week and exercises, grabs a drink afterwards and helps out at the local fair once a year. Other clubs demand immense commitment. Imagine a trumpet player in a first-class wind orchestra. People don't realize how much it takes to reach that level. That person has been practicing since childhood. They are 30 years old now and still playing, not as a professional, not for money, but out of love. Thousands of hours invested, no financial reward, but they give it freely for the sake of culture and community. We can't measure value by salary alone. We can't reduce worth to productivity or scarcity. Thousands of hours of unpaid labor sustain the high living standards we enjoy. Switzerland supports these clubs with public and private funding. But people who believe strictly in supply and demand might want to cut that support. After all, there's no short-term profit, no easily measurable outcome. But how much is it worth to have young people learning skills in the Scouts? Or to have farmers get free help cleaning the Alps in the spring? How much would it cost to run a village festival if the local volleyball club didn't volunteer to set it up, or the 50-piece wind orchestra had to get paid? I don't want a society obsessed with merit. I don't want a society where social contribution isn't valued. I want one that values fairness and understands the immense role of luck. I want a world where the fortunate and the less fortunate ride the same trains to work, where the rich feel inspired to invest in their communities. I don't want to step over a homeless person on my way into my favorite restaurant. We can recognize achievement without being arrogant or entitled about it. We can reward contribution without dehumanizing those who can't contribute in conventional ways. We can believe in personal responsibility while also recognizing that no one chooses who they are.